All right. Welcome to the Lovecraft eZine podcast. October the 13th, 2019. Pete did not start us off with the joke. I'll be
I
docking your.
thought about it. I
I'll,
thought about it, but
I'll dock your pay later. Don't worry about it. Ellen Datlow is on the show today. Hey, Ellen, how's it going?
Hi
ooh,
there, fine. Hello
Yes.
there.
Let's do. Well, okay. First of all, Matt has a prize, and then let's do our introductions, and then we'll talk to Ellen.
Okay, our prize is really great. It is a copy of Weird Fiction Review from Centipede Press. This is issue number 8 from 2017. These books are published once a year by Centipede Press. They have art galleries, interviews, fiction. This has an art gallery from a famous Dungeons and Dragons artist, Errol Otis.
Hmm.
So if you want to get this, you go to you send an email to ezineprizes@gmail.com and just put weird in the subject heading, and you'll be entered into our random drawing in about a week.
Weird. Are we referring to the prize or to the prize giver?
I was thinking about the our special host. But
All right. I'm
guest host.
yeah, not the guest, the host. I'm Mike Davis, the host, Lovecraft eZine. Matt, why don't you go first? Introduce yourself. And
Hi,
we've got, but before we've got Ben and Kelly coming in a little bit. So go ahead, Matt.
Hello,
Sorry.
I'm Matt Carpenter. I went to the HP Lovecraft Film Festival this past week.
Yeah, I want to hear about that later from you and Kelly. Rick,
Rick Lay, writer.
Pete.
Hi there.
Pete Rollick, Santa Claus in training.
A failed Santa Claus. A rejected Santa Claus.
uh, okay, Ellen. Hey, thanks for being on the show again.
Oh, you're welcome. I love it.
Good to see you.
Thanks
All right, so you know what? Your people sent me an ARC advanced review copy of Echoes. What's the subtitle?
The Saga Anthology of Ghost
A
Stories.
Saga Anthology of Ghost Stories, and I made the mistake of letting my mother borrow it,
Uh-oh.
and it's still at her apartment. So
Well, she'll have it for a while. It's rather large.
yeah, it's a doorstopper. She loves it. She's read like 10 stories out of it so far. So, and she's not given it back to me or let me read it yet. But anyway, uh, tell us about this. How did this start? And
Well, I'm always looking for a new idea for an anthology.
yeah,
I mean, I prefer doing non-theme anthologies, but they're really hard to sell. So I try to think of thematic ones that interest me and that are as I can solicit as broad a range of stories that I can. And ghost stories are pretty wide open. And I had done an original anthology, The Dark, a ghost story anthology several years ago for tour. And then I did a reprint one, Hauntings, for Tachyon, which was all reprints. And I was thinking I would like to do another original one. So I pitched it to Joe Monte at Saga, and he was interested. It's all original except for 3 reprints. I can show. I have it here next to me. It is huge. It is large. The reprints are by F. Marion Crawford and Ford Maddox Ford, 2 classics, plus also one
wow,
by
that is
yeah.
one thick book.
yeah. It's yeah.
How many stories? Ellen?
770 pages.
Wow.
It's 30 stories. I just had I can never remember. I had to count them again. And so it's weird. I think it's the largest, or at least certainly one of the largest anthologies I've ever edited. So it's hard to keep track of everything. I mean, I don't even remember what's in there, who's in there. You know, it's like it's more to juggle than I've ever had to juggle before. And interestingly, I'd never read The Upper Berth before, or if I did, I just didn't remember, by Crawford, and I loved it.
Mhm.
And I never read any ghost stories by Ford Maddox Ford. I had read The Good Soldier years ago in college, and I liked it a lot. And I think Stephen Jimenez probably recommended this. I think it's called The Mediums something. What's it called? All right, what's it called? The Medium's End. And one is a contemporary reprint by a writer who I'd never heard of, but found I found his story in there's something called the Masters Review. I think Jeff Vandermeer was a guest editor several years ago, and I missed I never had seen it before, and then I got to the issue late. It was online, I think, and I read this guy's story, and it was too late. I really, really liked it, but it was too late for me to actually consider it for the year's best because I had already closed it and I handed in the book.
Yeah.
And so, but the story lingered with it. Ironically, it lingered because it's called Linger Longer. But, I mean, I just realized that. I mean, I didn't mean to make a pun, but I mean, the story really stayed with me, and so I contacted him and asked if I could reprint the story. And the thing is, he hasn't published anything since. I don't get it. I said, send me your bio, and there's like nothing in it. He said, publish this story, and I said, what is wrong with you? I don't know what's going on with him, but his name is Vincent Masterson, and it's called, I said, Linger Longer. But the rest are all original. I mean, I'm really happy with what I've got. It's an interesting variety of kinds of stories, and I'm really pleased that I got an Alice Hoffman story, a new story from her. It's very short, but it's good. And a really excellent Joyce Carol Oates. I think it's a novelette, I'm not sure. And I was able to open it up to writers I haven't used before. Aliette Bodar, and who else is there who I haven't published before? Indra, I cannot pronounce, it's really hard for me to pronounce it. Indra Pramit Das. I published the story. It's the first time I've ever published a story by him, and I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I solicited them. And it's just, I have some of the usual suspects: Brian Evanson, Nathan Ballingrud, Garth Nix, Siobhan Carroll, AC Wise. Mary Rickard has a story in it too. So, and the interesting, and of course, John Langan has a very, very long story, and he's got a novella.
Yeah, he did the same thing to me on Autumn
He does it
Cthulhu.
all the time. He's always late, and he's always long.
And he's always great,
Well, right, yeah. So, I mean, I kept telling, I told Joe, I said, this is really long, the book. He said, it's all right, don't worry about it. I said, are you sure? I mean, I forget how long. I think John's novella is like 27, I don't know, let me look. It's like 27,000 words or something cuckoo like that.
Yeah, when he sent me his
26,700 words is his story.
Yeah, when he sent me his for Autumn Cthulhu, he said, "Mike, I don't know if you're gonna want this. This is too long." I read it. I thought it was literally one of the best things I'd ever read.
What story was it?
I got a foggy memory.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have
It's the
asked.
one about the Manticore.
Yes, but I can't remember the title. John's gonna kill me. But it's such a wonderful story. Yeah.
Well, he does every once in a while write something short, but not very often.
Yeah.
You should have John write a story called Late and Long.
Okay, so Echoes is available obviously in hardcover and
trade paperback and
and paperback. Paperback's out already too.
Trade paperback, sure.
Okay, and Kindle.
Presumably, yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't looked, and I don't know the audiobook. I haven't.
That was my next question. Is there an audiobook version?
I don't know. Let me quickly look. I can't remember.
You get this.
I don't know.
You're working on other stuff.
I don't read audiobooks, so unless someone asks, it's like I don't know. I don't care.
You don't listen to audiobooks?
So far, it's not. I mean, so I don't know if that means it's not. I don't remember if I don't know if Saga has the rights or not. I mean, they may be. If they do, they'll probably slow in putting it out. So I don't know. And it would be.
That would be a hell of a long audiobook.
I don't even know. I mean, someone will do it. Someone should do it. But
yeah. You said somewhere that you don't believe in ghosts, but you love ghost stories.
And I was on a panel at the Saga Talk Book Fest a couple of weekends ago, and we had a panel about it. And it's like, yeah, I don't believe in ghosts, but I do believe in inexplicable happenings. But I'm not willing to say that they're ghosts. I just can't explain them. But yeah, but I do love ghost stories. I mean, I don't believe in the supernatural, but I still love supernatural stories. I love reading them.
Yeah,
I mean,
actually, that was going to be my
stories
next
about-
question too. You're anticipating all my questions if you believe in the supernatural or not.
No.
So,
But there are sometimes inexplicable happenings. Do I believe other people when they tell me about them?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because if your story, the whole thing about any fiction is it's a question of suspending your disbelief. I mean, not just horror fiction, not just some supernatural, but any kind of fiction because you're living in someone else's world,
Right.
putting your head in someone else's life, a fictional life, and so you have to be involved in reading in the story, or you're not going to. I don't think you're going to enjoy it, or I can't if I'm not totally involved in reading intimately involved in what I am reading, and keep falling out of it. Then I'm not going to enjoy it as much, So I mean, in a way, you can say the same thing for any kind of fiction, not
Yeah.
just supernatural.
So
I always,
go ahead, Pete.
I always tell my daughters, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Well, it depends on if it's supposed to be true, though.
Yes, but don't get hung up on the truth.
Right,
if you're
I mean,
storytelling.
I like reading those books about, here are the true swamp gas and true happenings, but I don't believe them. Most of them are pretty silly and, yeah, Bigfoot, sure. Yeah, I saw Bigfoot, you bet.
Well,
I urban legends and things like that. I enjoy reading them.
There was a great line in the movie The Cowboys, that old John Wayne flick, where these young cowboys and they're being told a story by the cook. And they ask him at the end, was that true? And he says, well, if it isn't, it should have been.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I like that. So to me, this sort of begs the question of what, Ellen, are some of your favorite ghost stories and in books or movies?
Oh man, it's hard to. That's really putting me on the spot.
Yeah, I should have told you earlier I was going to ask you this question.
Let me think. Well, I like The Haunting of Hill House a lot.
Yeah.
The book. I've
Yeah.
never read I didn't see the movie. Oh, I did the movie. The Haunting. The movie. The Haunting. Yes.
Right.
I'm sorry. Yeah, The Haunting was a movie, and I really loved the movie as well as the book. I loved Personal Shopper with Kristen. What's her name? Twilight.
Kristen Stewart.
It
Stuart,
was a wonderful, really, really creepy ghost story.
Yeah.
that was a ghost story? Matt, didn't we watch that together?
It's definitely a ghost story. Oh yeah.
I don't remember that at
You
all.
saw it? You watched it? And you don't remember that it was a ghost story?
I might be thinking of a different movie.
Well, she's a
possibly.
personal shopper for someone in Paris, for some, obnoxious twit.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's definitely a ghost story.
Yeah.
I gave up on it, so I.
We did watch that, Mike.
Yeah. Must not have made much of an impression on me, Matt.
It's very
Okay.
subtle.
Yeah, it's really good, I thought. I thought it was really terrific and very creepy. Unbelievably creepy. I mean, some of the stories in the book I love. There's a story by Mike O'Driscoll that I published in the dark that I really love, that I can't remember the title of, but it's this weird long title with sky and stars or something.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this. I can't describe it. I mean, there's something of the Night of Falling Stars, I think it's called, and I love. It's just a really creepy story told about something that someone doesn't aware that he's like a serial killer or something. I mean, there are other things going on, but it's one of my favorite ghost stories. What else? I don't know.
Oh,
Any M.R. James stories you're fond of?
What? Oh,
M.R. James.
Oh, well, I like his stuff. I mean, I like his writing. It's like I just can't think of. I've never made a list of my favorite ghost stories. I just haven't done that.
yeah, I did kind of put you on the
Well,
spot.
I don't know. They're probably really I mean, there are writers who I love who probably wrote ghost stories that I probably love. I mean, I don't know. Robert Aikman, I read all of his stuff. I loved it. I don't remember if there's specifically a ghost story in there, but probably. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm that's one of my. I think that's my favorite kind of supernatural movie fiction is ghost stories. I really liked What Lies Beneath, for example. I thought
I'm
that
not
was
sure I
really
saw
really.
that one. You know
Harris,
what I hated? I don't like Susan Hill at all. I find
you
her
don't like
very,
Susan Hill?
no, I find her really unsubtle. I don't
Oh,
like. I mean,
Ellen, I may not be able to ask you back.
I just don't think she's that interesting a writer. But I don't. Didn't she was a playmate of her?
The Woman in Black.
Yeah, and I just found it was like, eh. I just found
And did you read The Man in the Picture?
was that by her? No, I did
Yes,
not. No,
that. Well, you should try it. That's very, very good.
really?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, and it's a novella. It's not too long.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's not, but it's not from this year, so it's too late.
no, 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 no.
I can't really
Yeah,
from
it's been a while.
You know, it took
Um,
me 20 years to read Flicker by Theodore Roszak, which is a movie. I love kind of weird movie
yeah.
books. And I had gotten that when it first came. I mean, this shows how far behind on some reading. If I don't get it, read the year that I'm reading for the Earth Fest, I don't read it. But I did finally, and I had the copy of Flicker. I got the original copy when it came out in hardcover, and I didn't read it, and everyone kept recommending it. I kept buying the book again because I couldn't remember where I had it. And I finally last year in 1918, I mean 2018, I finally read the damn book, and I loved it. But it took me 20 years to read it. So maybe I'll get to the Susan Hill eventually.
Okay, a couple things real quick. First of all, thank you to Nathan on the live chat for reminding me the name of the John Langan story in Autumn Cthulhu. It was Anchor. So,
Okay.
yes. And then the other thing is, Ellen, if you haven't seen What Lies Beneath, it's Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer.
I think I have.
It is really, it's
When did that come out?
about 20 years ago.
What's it about? If you can tell me without spoilers.
No, no, it's. I really can't, and you really should.
Okay, no,
Do yourself a favor and don't watch any trailers. One of the trailers really gives it away.
okay, hold on. Let me write it down. What lies beneath?
What Lies Beneath, and
You
yeah,
email- You just email it to me. If
yeah.
I can get it on Netflix, I'll rent it. I assume I watched it only because I liked them, and I think I probably would have seen it when it first came out, but I don't remember, so I'd be happy to try to see it again.
Well, yeah, I'll email it to you, and do me a favor after you've seen it. Email me and
Well,
tell me what you think.
It take me a while. I have like 200 things in my queue. By the way, I like the Babadook a lot. I really did like the Babadook for movies. I got the Babadook pop-up book too.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, the Kickstarter, and I have that as a pop-up book. Go ahead, other ghost stories.
All
I like
right.
Terry Dowling writes a lot of ghost stories, and I love his ghost stories. He writes really good ones. Terry Dowling, the Australian writer, who I've published a lot.
All right. I did something a little bit different because we've had you on the show quite a bit, and I didn't want to keep asking sort of the same questions. So I put it out there to some writers to ask, see if they wanted to ask you a question.
Okay.
So I'm going to go down the list here. There's about half a dozen.
Okay.
Allison Littlewood.
Oh, I love her.
Yes, she says, "Hi Mike, thanks for getting in touch. Ellen's work must involve a phenomenal amount of reading, particularly for her year's best anthologies.
We come behind all the time and very behind.
It would be interesting to know when she has time to read purely for pleasure. Does she prefer short stories or novels, and does she reach for completely different genres?"
Well, first of all, I try to. There are very, very, very few things I read that are not at least tangentially related to work. Okay,
Yeah.
there are like two writers whose novels I read that aren't always horror. I mean, I read all of William Gibson's novels. I love his work, and I read Liz Hand's novels, her crime novels. But I feel I justify her Castnery novels, and covered them in my years past, and Jonathan Carroll, whose stuff is often dark but not always dark, and more dark fantasy than horror. So they're the only people who I actually feel are totally pleasure.
Yeah.
Well, not total. I mean, the pleasure, but I do try to justify 2 out of 3 of those in my books. I like crime fiction, but I don't get it, unless it's really dark. I don't have time to read much of it. I read a lot of James Lee Burke for a while. And he has some ghost stories, things in his ghostly happenings in some of his novels, and so I was able to justify covering them for that. I've kind of lost. I haven't been reading his last few novels, but I don't have much time. No, I don't read short stories. Any shorts? No, I don't read. I mean, do I?
Yeah, you did tell me once that
The thing is, I have to enjoy what I'm reading, or I can't do it anyway.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's a combination.
It's work and pleasure.
Yeah, it is. So I guess the answer is no.
Okay. Mr. Robert Levy, he says, and I'm quoting him, "A few years ago, I heard you state on a panel at World Fantasy in DC, I believe, that the ideal length for a short story is 4,500 words."
I never said that. I wouldn't say that.
You wouldn't say that?
I don't think that's the ideal length of a short story anyway. I never said that.
Okay.
Either someone else said it or someone misunderstood. I would never pick that wordage. I think it's too short for a short story, actually. I think a real, and it depends on what kind of short story anyway. I'd say 6,000 to 7,000 words are usually a good length for a short story. But it totally depends on the story. That's science fiction. But I never, 4,500, I'd never say that. I don't know where that came from. It wasn't from me.
Robert may have had a dream about it, so.
All
right, sorry, Robert. Michael Sisko.
I'll talk to him. We're friends. I'll say, like, what? I did not say that.
He's such a great guy. Yeah, he really is. Michael Sisko says, "Are there stories that you use as a yardstick, a sort of measure by which to gauge the quality of other stories? If so, have those stories changed over time?"
That's so conscious. No. I mean, probably on a subconscious level, possibly. I mean, I have favorite stories, and those favorite stories I reprint a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my favorite stories. But do I measure other stories against them? Certainly not consciously.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't say I don't subconsciously. I'm not sure. It's even deeper than sub. I would say it's unconsciously.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that close to the surface. Not that I'm aware of. Let's put it that way.
Okay. Livia Llewellyn.
My friends.
What's that?
All my friends.
Yeah, she's great. Your anthologies seem to have covered just about every theme imaginable in horror and dark fantasy. Are there any themes or subjects that you haven't done yet that you'd like to, and what are they, of course?
Yes.
And then she's got another question after that. So.
Okay, can I do that one first?
Yes, go right ahead.
I'd like to do a horror anthology or dark fantasy and horror story about trains. I kind of, I was hoping like a Hellbound train thing, but originals, not using the Robert Bloch. And I had a proposal out on that once, and no one ever bought it. So, but it doesn't mean someone won't in the future. So I would like to do that. And I want to do the Book of Shoes.
I'd buy the train one. I don't know if I'd buy the shoe one.
It was Rick Bose's idea, and it wouldn't be horror, although there could be horror stories in it, but fantasy. There are so many aspects, all kind of shoes, from horseshoe to boot to Chinese, slippers.
Right, right.
Foot binding. I mean, there's so many ways it could be done, and I would like to do some nonfiction with it, but I can't even get a handle on it. And that one's just been floating around in my brain, and I don't even know who would be interested. I mentioned it occasionally to people, but no one seems to be that interested. So those are 2 that I would like to do. I would not mind doing one. I wouldn't mind doing a reprint anthology of a book of kind of insect horror. including spiders. So those aren't, but that would be a reprint one. I would like doing that. I think it's fun. I want to do more non-theme horror, anthologies if I can. I mean, that's what I would love to do all the time, but it's really hard to sell them. So that's why, I always have to, and I don't mind going back to other themes. I love my anthology Supernatural Noir, and I would love to do another anthology of Supernatural Noir stories. So, there are things that I would like to do again with new writers and new stories, but it's a question of selling them to publishers.
Just pitch it as this is an Ellen Datlow themed
Yeah,
horror anthology.
Well, I can try. I mean, that's what the non-theme ones are. I'm actually hoping. I've got a couple of ideas that I have pitched, so we'll see.
I like your train idea, personally.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. And what made me originally think of it, there was a wonderful train story. There was a train book several years ago from an English publisher. It wasn't about horror trains. I don't remember the title of it. I covered it in my year's best. It was like maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one amazing novella in it. It was not horror. It might have been by Nina Allen. I'm not sure. And it was just an incredibly gorgeous story about trains. And I would just love to, and then there are other stories that I've read about trains. Terry Dowling's done at least one or two really interesting train stories. I mean, I think that I would not mind doing a mix of mostly originals with a few reprints. But it's not. I don't think I've done an official pitch, but I none of the editors I mentioned it to a bit. But that you don't know if it could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me several years to sell the dog collection because I couldn't think of a good title. Sometimes you have to come up with the right title to be able to get a handle on pitching it to someone.
Yeah.
And then also editors change. So when editors change, that's a new opportunity, or if a new publisher starts up or something.
Well, Olivia's second question is, what are some of the themes or subjects in genre anthologies and short fiction in general that you feel have been done to death and should be left alone by writers for the foreseeable future?
None. Anything can be fresh. I mean, the problem is, I've read lots of anthologies that are really boring and that are really too much the same. And I'm not going to blame the theme for that. I have to blame the editors for that. Because I think unless it's really, really narrow. Now there are a few. All right, one thing that I think is a little too narrow that I've seen, anthologies on Dracula, not on vampires, but on Dracula specifically. I think it's really, really hard to put together to get 18 really diverse, interesting, different tonally effective stories. And I think I just read one anthology that was called something about Dracula, but it wasn't about Dracula, so I'm not even sure why they use his name. But anyway, that's besides the point. I think anything can be done fresh. So,
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean,
Okay.
I said that about zombies years ago, and I still read great zombie stories. It all depends on the mix. It's not the theme that's at fault. It's the editor. But what can I say?
Yeah. AC Wise. Here's a different kind of question. As a longtime New York City resident, what is your favorite piece of local hidden history, or your favorite neighborhood gem that most people don't know about?
Neighborhood what?
Neighborhood gem that most people don't know about.
Jim?
G-E-M.
J-E-G-E-M. Gem.
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I thought you said gym. It's like, I don't go to the gym. I don't know. It's like, what?
I don't know any gem, damn it.
I don't know any. Well, this isn't unknown, but I think, I'm not even sure it's around anymore, but Sammy's Romanian restaurant is I used to go there a lot in the aughts, maybe. In the 90s, I went a few times. I mean, not a lot, but it's an old Romanian restaurant near the Lower East Side. I think it's still around, and they have oh god, they have mashed potatoes and gribbenich. Now, gribbenich is like the crunchy bits of. Does anyone know what gribbenich is?
No, I've.
You put it in. You put in. All right, you put in chicken liver. I mean, chopped liver.
Oh God.
But no, chopped liver. I'm sorry, but it's like the crunchy bits, and I don't know where it comes from. The crunchy bits. It's grease, basically, but it's really really good. And I also had I had unborn eggs there. Now unborn eggs are further along than just eggs. They're just before they became an embryo, I guess. I don't know where they get them and how they know they're unborn eggs. They're slightly different and they have a slightly different texture. Anyway, I went there once with Bob Guccione and Harlan Ellison, and they also had a horrible violinist. I think he died eventually. Who would go around the restaurant and serenade, and you had to pay him off.
Pay him to leave. Pay him to leave your table.
Yeah, right. No, I mean that I really loved. I don't know if it's still around. That's one I can think of.
All right, John.
One more, but I don't know if I should tell people. There's this amazing.
Go ahead.
There's I live on Hudson Street, and further down below 14th Street, St. Luke's Church has a garden. They have a little public garden that I used to go to. I mean, it's not really in my neighborhood, it's farther south than I go, but there's a lovely little garden with flowers and benches that anyone can go to, and it's wonderful. I mean, it's just terrific, and very few people know about it. So that's one of my favorite places that I haven't been to in quite a while. I mean, I still pass by it when I take a cab uptown or something.
Yeah.
But I haven't been to it for a long time.
All right. Our last question from a writer is from John Langan. And I saved this for last because it's a bit of an inside joke.
And it's probably long.
No, it's not. It's 5 paragraphs long. Dear Ellen, and I'll be done reading it in 30 minutes. No, he says, Mike, there's only one real question, isn't there? If Laird Barron, John Langan, and Paul Tremblay had a fight, who would win? This is in this is in reference to when I had these 3 guys on the show, and it was just them and me, and they were just having a conversation. It was a really fun show. So I think they came up with Paul because John says he's got this inner rage and he would Hulk out. So
I don't know. Does he?
That's what John says. So
okay.
I don't know.
Well, Nathan's become a biker.
What's that?
Nathan's got a bike, a motorcycle, Ballingrud. He's been riding around on his motorbike.
Oh, really?
He mentions it on Facebook occasionally. Yeah.
Well, my answer to him today was the answer today is Ellen's creepy doll collection would kick all of your asses because.
God, I forgot about that. You walked us through that last time, right?
I asked Ellen the other day to email me a few pictures of some of her dolls, and I really creeped out my wife with the doll in the vase.
Which
Ellen.
One? Chicken one? Which one? The chicken one?
The doll
in the vase.
The doll in the vase. Yeah.
That's what you might like that.
That scared her the most.
I have many.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she's listening right now, so, honey, Ellen did say she'd email me some more doll photos if you want, so.
Yeah, I have some good ones. But I like my chicken doll is really weird. It's got real fingernails. Well, not real, but fingernails all over it. It's like very weird. Oh, here comes Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Meet Jack the jerk. Aw.
You have 2 cats, is that right?
Yeah, Sophie's on the back over there. I don't know if you can see her.
I can. Yeah. I have 4. They're all
wow.
All cats have chronic fatigue. So. All right, guys, you have some questions for Ellen. I think Matt, you might have had some Halloween questions.
Well, I know you did I don't remember if it was a reprint or original. A few years ago, you did a Halloween anthology.
Haunted Nights was meant to be. Yeah, it was all original. I did that with Lisa Morton.
I was wondering if you personally had any favorite Halloween stories or movies that stick on your mind, or you like to watch or read again.
Oh, I thought actually when you said stories, I thought you meant of Halloween. Of doing Halloween.
If you have a personal story, that'd be great.
Yeah, I love dressing up. I had gotten a friend to make me a rabbit costume. There used to be the Greenwich Village. There used to be a Christopher Street Halloween parade every Halloween. That was started by the gay community and started around my neighborhood, and went to I think Washington Square Park it used to go to. And a few times I joined it. I had a friend made me a rabbit costume, and I actually had someone make me a plaster of Paris mask, but it didn't work because I couldn't. It was too heavy and I couldn't wear it, so I just put like face paint on, and I would carry a carrot, and I was actually a fat rabbit. I'm saying I was a pregnant rabbit because my friend made the suit huge, so I had to put pillows in it. So here I was waddling around the city in this. The costume was later auctioned off more than once at ArmadilloCon for charity, and it may still be in someone's closet moldering away. As far as Halloween stories, no. I watched the movie Halloween, but I don't think I watched any of the subsequent ones.
Is there anything every year that you read or watch to kind of get you in the Halloween mood?
No, I eat a little bit of candy corn. I love candy corn.
That's good too.
I only want like 5 or 6 pieces, and usually have to buy. You get a whole package of them. I finally was able to get candy by the pound, and I was able to get like just a small handful, so I got my fill. Once a year, I just like to eat some candy corn, but just a little bit of it. I used to carve pumpkins, and I used to eat the pumpkin seeds, but it's such a pain in the neck. It's like I'm not a good carver, and I'd rather just buy my pumpkin seeds. It's easier. But I used to love going to that parade, and then it got too crowded. It moved from the narrow side streets. It moved up 6th Avenue, and it was just too many people came, and too many outsiders who weren't really interested in celebrating, just drinking.
Yeah.
But it was fun. That was a really great tradition in the village. I don't even know when it started, but let's say the 70s, certainly the 70s and 80s. And it probably started way before that, but I don't know. And I go to World Fantasy usually every Halloween, so I don't celebrate anymore. As a kid, I loved trick-or-treating, and I was going to go one more year, and I don't know how old I was, and my mom punished me. I don't remember what happened. I don't know what I did. And I was not allowed to go trick-or-treating. And I was devastated because it was the last time I could ever go. And my mom later told me she didn't want me to go because I was too old. So it was kind of a manufactured excuse. But I don't know how old I was. I'm sure I wasn't like 15, but still. I used to love my sister, and I used to love and go and get as much candy as we could. So those are my own personal Halloween stories. And now I'm at World Fantasy. I used to go to nice parties. Sometimes they were costume parties, not very often.
Yeah.
People still had parties in New York. People had loft apartments, so they were really huge, and people, just went there for parties. And you don't have that anymore. I don't have any friends. I have like one friend who has even a kind of a loft, and that's it. So things have changed. As far as Halloween partying in my life, but I'm old. Maybe the young people still do it. They'll have Halloween parties.
Guys, any other questions for Ellen? By your silence, I presume
I'm
there's
sorry. I'm sorry I disappointed you. I can't think of any Halloween stories.
Oh, no.
It's like Halloween's just for fun, and how you have fun is whatever works.
Yeah.
My neighbor, he's got little kids like 3, 4, 5, and my kids are now off in college. And I told him, so what are they going to be for Halloween? And the first year he moved in, and he says, oh, we don't do Halloween.
Oh, no.
And so what I did was I got this 12-foot inflatable with a pumpkin head, and I put it right at the property line by his house.
Wow. There was one Halloween story I do remember reading. It was by Stephen Graham Jones, and I don't think I originally published it. I think I reprinted it in a year's best, and I don't remember much about it, but it was really creepy. If I looked up, I'd find it. It was something about monsters, but anyway, it was. I don't think that was that one. I don't. Anyway, that's one I can think of that really made an impression on me. That was very creepy, specifically for Halloween, and actually in hauntings. I mean, in the Haunted Nights. That's the one that I did with Lisa Morton. It was for the HWA, and they didn't want to. We were going to call it something Halloweeny, and then they said, well, if we call it Haunted Nights, it doesn't have to be just for Halloween. It could be broader. And there's one story that I really made an impression on me. John Little did a Halloween story on Mars, on the moon. I think whatever. It's on another planet, and it's a really good, creepy maybe monster story. So, but it was a future kind of. It was almost science fiction-y because it took place on the moon or Mars or wherever.
Short story or no?
Short story. It's like the last story in the book.
Okay.
And I can't get up to check because I've got a cat on my lap.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch which book again.
It's in Haunted Nights.
Haunted Nights.
Halloween anthology that Lisa Morton and I did, and it's the last story, and it is by John Little. And I don't. Halloween on the Moon. That's a wrong title, but something about
Haunted Nights. I'm gonna have to pick that up. I love Halloween books.
Yeah, so. No, there's some really good stories in there.
Okay. What are you working on now, and what are you going to be working on in the near future, Ellen?
Thank God I'm not working on it. I finished I'm working on the year's best because I'm so behind on it.
Yeah.
But I finished recently Final Cuts, which is a movie horror anthology, all original, for Blumhouse. Blumhouse anchor Doubleday did Haunted Nights, and the same editor bought my book, Final Cuts, which I said is a movie horror anthology. That's coming out next summer.
You did another one like that too, didn't you? The Cutting Room, something like
Cutting Room, that was all reprints.
Oh, okay, and these are all originals.
This is the first original one. Casey Lansdale and I tried to sell it several years ago, and we couldn't. No one bit, and we just couldn't do it. And then I decided that's when I did the Cutting Room, which was all reprints.
Yeah. And
I decided to try to pitch. I still had a pitch. I mean, I had to change it, but I thought I could try to sell it again, and Blumhouse was interested. And so I asked Casey. I didn't have to because titles aren't copyrightable, but I asked Casey if it was okay if I used the title for it. So, so that's coming out, and I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, tell me again that title that's coming out.
Final Cuts.
Final Cuts. When will it be out?
Probably next summer. I'm not sure. There's going to be a subtitle, and I don't remember. There may be two subtitles. Something about a book with cinematic horror, and then something else. They want to say Hollywood, but it's not only Hollywood. That's the problem. There's also, I intentionally wanted it to be other countries, so there are some. There's a Pakistani story in there, and there's others. I'm blanking.
Can I?
So I didn't. It's not just Hollywood. So I wanted. So then they may have Hollywood and other something that's in there.
There's a theme that I would like to see more of that's hard for me to find, and I'm wondering if you have any interest in it at all, whether you ever do it or not. And that's road horror, like traveling across America.
I have seen it. It's been done. Lost Highways was one last year.
Yeah.
And there are other ones that have been done. It's not something I thought about. It could be promising. It could be.
Yeah.
I have some dead anthology proposals, and dead that no one was interested in, which doesn't mean I can't revive them. There are other things I'm working on. I finished. It hasn't been announced yet, so I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know when the heck it's going to be announced, but I've been kind of a best of my anthology stuff that's coming out from Subterranean, called Edited By. And that'll be coming out next year, but it's like mostly, I think, a limited edition. I'm not sure. Not totally limited, but,
Yeah.
And we have the artist, and I don't know when Bill's going to announce it, but that's coming out next year at some point. Let's see what else. Hold on. I'm working on something called Dark Peculiar Toys, with an artist I worked with before, Victor Coyne, Koen. I had done a project with him. He does like photo montage kind of art, weird mechanical stuff. And we did something called Mythic Beasts. I think I can't remember what it was called, but anyway, it was for a catalog. He had an exhibit already, and he wanted a catalog to go with the exhibit. He's from Greece. He's a Greek American, and he had a gallery. He had an exhibit in Greece, and he was going to have one in America. And so we worked on what we did. He had like I forget how many, but let's say 25 pieces of art, and I commissioned 25 writers to write poetry or text or fiction to go with each piece, 500 words or less. And so that came out as a catalog, and we were thinking of trying to sell it as a book, but we couldn't get it together. But we had a second project now called Dark Peculiar Toys, which he's got in his gallery and is on his website, all these toys that are weird things, amalgams of things, photographs of them. And we want to do the same thing, but this time we want to try to sell it first. We were going to go to like Centipede or some other high-end publisher that could do art and text. But first I decided to show it to my agent to see if she could sell it to a mainstream house, and I don't know what's happening with that, but we hope we'll do it, So that'll be about 25 or 27, I think, pieces of art with pieces of fiction or poetry to go with them if we can sell it. Otherwise, because we don't, we need to pay the writers a little something, even though it's very short.
Yeah, they like to get paid. They're pretty picky about that.
I mean, a lot of people were just happy to not, but I said, no, I want you have to get something. And they each get a print of their piece of art, a signed print.
Oh, that's nice.
And a copy of the book. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's something that's in process that I'm hoping we can sell. I don't know.
All right.
I just finally I'm getting a contract I'm doing a reprint anthology on body horror for Tachyon. That's going to be all reprints. I started working on that a while ago, rereading stuff, and I have to start working on it. I stopped working on it until I could get a contract, because even though I was assured that it was going to happen, it's like suddenly it's like, no, I'm not doing any work until like my agent gets a contract. It's like I've already read like 50 stories. I'm not doing any more.
Yeah.
Now I have to start reading the ones I didn't read and reread others and see if, and try to get some more stories possibly to look at. Because that wouldn't be out till 2021 presumably, since I haven't even. Actually, it's going to be due in March. I'm gonna hand it in around March, so it'll probably be out the year after. Right now, and as I said, I'm trying to sell a couple of non-theme anthologies if I can.
No, I was just going to say, Robin Chang on the live chat says that she loves the way that your cat is glaring at the camera.
Is she?
Yeah, I just noticed that. She's just like unhappy with the camera.
Look, Jack, what's there? Look at those people. Yeah.
What the hell is that? Is that a siren in New York?
Oh yeah, it sounds like it might have been a fire engine. I don't know.
It sounds like a huge cat running down the street.
I think it's a fire engine. Yeah, I'm also working. I've acquired several novellas for Tor.com.
Yeah.
A horror one by Cassandra Kaur that'll be coming out from Nightfire, the imprint, but not till 2021. I don't think they're not launching till 2021, and I think her novella will be one of the earliest things to be launched. I've got a horror dark fantasy novella coming out from Jeff Ford next year from Tor, and another novella from Stephen Graham Jones next year, and Fly Away.
What's the Jones novella?
It's called Night of the Mannequins. He sold a novel and 2 novellas to Saga, which I wanted those 2 novellas, but his agent wanted him to go to one place.
Night of the Mannequins?
They were short novels. Yeah, Night of the Mannequins. It's a novella.
I've got to read that.
It's a teen slasher books novella.
What's the Jeff Ford one?
It's called Out of Body. it's about someone who starts having out of body experiences,
Hmm.
and it's more dark fantasy than horror. Cassandra Claus is about a bunch of young people who go to. I think they're in Japan. They're from Malaysia, most of them, but they go to a wedding party in a house in Japan, and horrible things happen. It's really creepy, very good, with ghosts and icky things
Yeah.
happening, and death, violence, and just creepy stuff. And it's Kathleen Jennings who's known more as an artist than as a writer. She's from Australia, and she has a novella coming out called Fly Away. That's also dark fantasy, slopping over into horror. That'll be out next year. I forget when exactly. So, and
All right.
yeah, so those, and I just solicit. I mean, I did. We have. I I actually acquired, but we haven't officially done anything. It's not due for another year. So, a science fiction novella by Paul Cornell, but that's not even. I mean, it's not due for another year. So, I'm waiting for Liz Hand novella that she owes me. A novella that just is coming out in a week or so is Priya Sharma's Orm Shadow, which is gorgeous. It's it's dark fantasy. It's almost mainstream with a little tiny bit of dark fantasy in it. A very downbeat family drama taking place in England. That reminded me a lot of Baloney, the novel by Michael James Curley, I think his name is.
Well, I want to thank both of your cats for allowing you to be on the show today. Um,
Sophie's sleeping over there. Usually Jack's running after and attacking her.
um,
Jack.
yeah. Thanks for being on the show. Did we forget anything? Any other questions we want to ask her before we let Ellen go?
I'm happy for any more questions.
So you are very vocal on your Facebook page about everything that goes wrong in your apartment. Is everything okay right now?
Yeah. Well, the front door won't lock, but I mean, not my front door. The front door of the building won't lock. Other than that, things are okay in the apartment.
I think I've been through gas leaks, plumbing, gas leaks and plumbing.
Oh,
And
the gas leaks, that was 2 years ago. That's gone. That's fixed. Yeah, and then I had a leak. Yeah, my apartment, I had a leak that was like, my bathroom smelled like mold for like 2 days, and my door wouldn't close. But finally, my house, I had Rick Leader was here for like a week while I was gone, house sitting and cat sitting, and he managed to. Jack has to get fed in the bathroom while Sophie eats in the kitchen, because otherwise he'll eat all the food. So Rick locked Jack in the. He was able to close the door in the bathroom so much that he fixed it for me. I mean, it had obviously warped from the water, and I had asked my super to take care of it, to do something, and he didn't come before I left. And then I come back and my door's closing. I said, did my super come in while I was gone? And I asked Rick, what happened? I mean, did my super contact you? He said, no, I said, the door is closing now. He said, I just saw you open and close it so much, because it's locking Jack in there, that I guess it's working again. I said, it's fine. You fixed it. Thank you. So it's an old apartment building,
Well, to the audience, I've always said, if you see a book in a bookstore or on Amazon or online somewhere and it says edited by Ellen Datlow, don't even think about it. Just pick it up, because they're going to be great stories. So,
I hope so. I love my writers.
so thanks for being on the show today, Ellen. Really appreciate it.
I'm delighted.
And all right, now Kelly's here, and he's going to give us Kelly and Matt are going to give us a rundown of the film festival. So,
Is Jack moving? No, Jack's getting comfortable. He's getting more comfortable.
yeah. So thanks, Ellen. I think all you have to do is close your browser or whatever you're watching on.
Okay.
It'll kick you out of there.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Ellen.
all right.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
See you again. All right. I see how to close it, I think.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Kelly Young is now here. Question for you, Kelly.
Uh-oh.
If you're here, who's guarding hell right now?
Oh, jeez. Well,
Welcome back.
Matt Carpenter is guarding hell. Oh, wait, Matt's here too.
Must be Ben.
It must be Ben.
Yeah,
Where's
let's see, Ben. I don't know. Ben's like, I'm going to be a little late. He's still not here. So
Ben's guarding hell. I mean,
he must be. He must be.
I don't guarding the way in or out. I never quite got my roll down.
So Matt and Kelly, how was the HP Lovecraft Film Festival last weekend?
It's great.
Yeah. I will let Matt talk first because I think Matt saw most of the films.
Well, see, the thing is, like you go to Necronomicon and there are multiple different tracks you can follow. It's the same thing at the film festival. They have 3 different theaters, each showing different movies. And across the street in a small building, some people call it the Senior Center, but it's the Esoteric Order of Dagon Hall. You can go there and there's vendors, there are authors doing signings, readings, there are panel discussions. But if you go, you can't, regardless of how attractive those are, if you go there, then you miss out on a lot of the movies. I had a very narrow time window that I was there. I was there Friday night and Saturday, and I had to leave Sunday morning. So when I went with the specific resolve that I was going to see The Color Out of Space, and I was going to watch Haunted Palace. And so I ended up sitting in the main theater the most of the time. You don't get to socialize much that way. But I did get to play Delta Green, run by Adam Scott Glancy, and that was a blast. So the main thing that I did was I wanted to go see, they had a 35 millimeter print of Haunted Palace, and Victoria Price, who's Victor Price's daughter, gave a really wonderful hour-long introduction of the movie talking about his life. It was quite fascinating when you think about it, that they showed pictures when he was a young man, and good God, he was gorgeous. Tall, strong, an athlete. Girls must have just been falling all over him because he was really good looking. And he started off, they put him in romantic comedies.
Did you say Victor Price or Vincent Price?
Vincent Price.
Vincent
I meant Vincent Price. Sorry.
Vincent Price. Okay.
Okay, so they put him in some romantic comedies, and he deliberately stepped away from that because he thought that was a kind of a limiting role. But it turns out that by going into horror and by having several Renaissance periods in his career, he ended up acquiring new generations of fans where the leading men types did not. And so it was really kind of amazing. Even just doing the rap for the song Thriller by Michael Jackson got him a whole new legion of young fans. So I'd never seen the Haunted Palace before in its entirety. That was a really good thing to watch. All things considered, it was clearly an adaptation of The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. And then seeing Richard Stanley speak about The Color Out of Space, I was really glad to see that movie on the big screen. You could say, like, there's different ways you can look at it. One is, how is it as an adaptation? Well, it took a lot of liberties. It took the theme material and used it, and it did some other stuff too. So, like, if you just want to see The Color Out of Space, just rent Dia Farba, and it's probably a better straight-up adaptation. But this was an entertaining movie. There were some things they did that I thought were frankly pointless choices. I gotta say, why have they created a character for David Chong to play, who's like a squatter on the Gardner farm, and he's smoking dope and giving dope to the one of the sons,
Tommy Chung.
Tommy Chung. Sorry. So like, you say, like, it's really shocking that Tommy Chung would play a stoner. I mean, it's a stretch for him. But it's like, okay, why did he have so much special insight? I thought that was silly. But he chewed up the scenery on the screen, so it was fun to watch. It's just when you sit back and think about it, you go, oh man, okay. And then they changed the family, so it was 2 sons and 1 daughter instead of 3 sons. They named the son Lavinia, the daughter Lavinia, who is of course named after Lavinia Watley. But then they made her a Wiccan, so she's out in the forest casting spells. Not that they did any damn good for her. And then at one point she's like mutilating herself, and it's like, why? I mean, there's no point to that. I thought they.
Did you enjoy the movie overall?
Yeah, because golly, the production values are superb. It's a high production value. The monster effects were really great. But
you, if I'm hearing you right, you enjoyed the movie, but it wasn't really The Color Out of Space. Is that what you're saying?
It was like, what you could say is it freely used material from The Color Out of Space, and there's a million Easter eggs in the movie for anyone who likes Lovecraft.
Mm-hmm.
He threw them out by the boatload. For example, the sign on the end of an ambulance is an elder sign, and that's
nice.
So anyone who likes Lovecraft at all, who watches that flick, will just be in hog heaven figuring all that out.
Was that a Derlithian elder sign or a
No, it was the real thing.
The branch was as opposed to the star. Okay.
Yes, it was, and the music was well done. The editing was good. There were some jump scares, but there was a certain amount of. But it was really, I thought, a very well-made movie, and clearly the audience loved Richard Stanley. The guy is kind of a mesmerizing speaker. He's got a great voice. He's really quite erudite. But he likes to let Nicolas Cage play Nicolas Cage. So there's scenes where like Nicolas Cage is just kind of going off, where you're saying, okay, I don't understand how this fits in. Oh well, it doesn't matter. I think anyone who likes Lovecraft could go to that and be entertained. Just don't be too big a stickler, All
right,
really,
I'd like to stop you there and then get Kelly's take on the movie, so we can, see where you guys agree and disagree, if that is in fact.
I agree with everything Matt said at the end of my first viewing of the film. There were things that I just thought were, Nicolas Cage overacting, and I enjoyed the film. At the end of the first viewing, I was just like, this was a really fun, entertaining film. I had issues with it. A lot of them are the exact same issues that Matt had. We also got a chance to do a live broadcast of Strange Eons Radio there, where we interviewed him and we talked to him. And then I had another panel I was supposed to do Sunday night, and instead of doing that panel, I skipped it and watched The Color Out of Space for a second time. And I realized,
you rebel.
I did, yeah. I was just like, shit. Well, part of because that first viewing was standing room only. They were turning people away.
Really?
Door. They were saying, look, if you don't have a seat in here, then you don't have a seat in here. If somebody's not saving a seat for you right now, then there is not a seat available. And so I thought, well, I kind of want to check this out again. And everybody who had missed it Friday night was seeing it Sunday night. And so I thought, my panel doesn't matter. So I set my panel.
Sorry.
Yeah. It's true in just about every panel I'm on, but this one for sure. And I went there and watched it again, and all of the problems I had, and a lot of them being Matt's problems, they disappeared upon second viewing. There were some silly things that Cage did with his voice that I didn't realize made sense upon second viewing. There were, at one point the girl is using a paperback version of the Simon Necronomicon, and I realized I mean, at first, the first viewing, I thought, this is totally pulling me out of this story. And then on second viewing, I realized this is a young girl who's playing with what she thinks is magic or Wiccan magic or any of that stuff. And none of that actually works when you're in a Lovecraftian universe.
Right.
And I didn't realize that on the first viewing. On the second viewing, it all became very clear that this was a young girl playing with things that she hoped would work, and it just doesn't. So there were a lot of little things that bothered me the first time that made sense to me the second time. Man, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. Nicolas Cage overacts several times in this movie, but I kind of think that we expect that from him, and I think
Yeah,
that he
I was going to
knows-
say I'm not surprised to hear
yeah,
that.
I think he knows that we expect that from him, and if he's reading a script where somebody goes slightly crazy, that he goes, look, people want to see me go really crazy if I'm going to go crazy at all, and he does. I really, really enjoyed it on the second viewing, which I wasn't sure I would, and I liked it more on the second viewing. Now, I don't like it as much as Mandy. I don't think the visuals are as strong as Mandy, but I think that the storytelling is a little stronger than it was in Mandy.
Okay, so
Don't you think Richard Stanley's pretty impressive?
I think Richard Stanley is amazing. When we got to talk to him, I was a little worried that we might get a yes and no interview. I'd ask him questions because I've met him before, and he's out there. And I thought this could go either way. I could ask him a question and he could answer yes, and that would be it, or whatever. But he was riding high on the absolute adoration from the audience that weekend, and he gave us an amazing interview.
did you? You said it was live. Were you able to? Did you record it as well?
We recorded it. It is up now. If you look at strangeeonsradio.com or search for, I imagine if you search for Strange Eons Radio and Richard Stanley, you'll be able to find the interview. It is skyrocketed.
Eons is AEONS, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
okay.
Thank you. Yeah, we've it really skyrocketed our listeners. We've done double this month what we've done normally, and it's
Nice.
the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
So
Has Nicolas Cage become like our Vincent Price, and that they both overact and we expect it?
that's an interesting
Richard Price
observation.
looks a lot more genteel, much more of a gentleman and a scholar. And
Vincent Price. You call him Victor. You call him Richard.
Vincent Price.
You're gonna call him Robert if we keep going this
Well, it's
way.
like his daughter was named Victoria. It got me thrown off.
You say that. What's your name? Matt. But, I've seen Vincent Price in some really non-genteel roles. And,
Which is, I think, when you get to sit and listen to his daughter did a keynote speech where she talked about, this is how you guys all think of my dad, and I'm going to sit there and talk for an hour about how I thought of him. And she just laid out this amazing story of a human being who was just a wonderful person, and he must have been a halfway decent dad, because she is really a really neat, wonderful person too.
Yeah, I gotta say the guests at the conference really made it.
Yeah, that makes me think of Ernest Hemingway. What a talented writer, but terrible, terrible father by all accounts.
Yeah.
Kelly, so you really, really liked this movie. Was this movie The Color Out of Space, or was it just a great movie
was it
that's
Die Monster
tangent?
Die?
What's that?
Was it Die Monster Die, or was it The Color Out of Space?
It was not Die Monster Die. There were scenes lifted right from the story that I was surprised to see in there. I think because I have trained myself to be looking for the fun in Lovecraftian adaptations when it comes to film, that I was a little surprised at how dark this movie got at the end, and how nihilistic. And I was like, wow, this is taking a really dark turn. But when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, this is all in the book. And I'm not sure why I thought that it would be fun, because if you know Richard Stanley, if you know his other movies, Dust Devil or Hardware, those are not exactly fun movies. And he's kind of a dark filmmaker. He's just got, as a person, he's got kind of a sly sense of humor that you expect to see in his films. There was a lot of humor in this, but it was not at the expense of Lovecraft. It was mostly at the expense of Nicolas Cage, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I was prepared to hate this movie, but you
Yeah.
guys are really talking me into it. It sounds entertaining.
I was not expecting much from this, and I walked away. Well, actually, I was sitting next to Eric Morgret, who is my partner on the podcast and the director of a lot of films I've done. And after the lights went up, I looked at him and I was like, was that fucking awesome, or is it just me? And he was like, that was fucking awesome. So, and then Richard Stanley got up to do a Q&A afterwards, and the audience gave him a standing ovation, and they would not let him start talking. I mean, that ovation went on for minutes and minutes.
Wow.
Yeah,
All right.
it was absolutely made for a crowd who wants to see Lovecraftian cinema.
Any news on when this will hit, say, digital or DVD, anything like that?
Oh, I
Yes.
thought it's going to hit the theaters in January.
Yeah, it is not going wide release until January. They've got a couple more festivals they're playing, and he even spoke about how he's still tweaking the sound elements and stuff like that.
That's another thing, actually. He mentioned they experimented with sounds, including subsonic and hypersonic, beyond normal human hearing, just to kind of add a qualitative feel while you're watching the movie. I thought that was fascinating too.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting. Like I said, I am a huge fan of the movie Mandy. I did not like this as much as I liked Mandy. Eric Morgret, he liked this way more than he liked Mandy. So, this tells me we're talking about art. People are coming at it with different things, and they're liking it or not liking it based on whatever. I did like this very much, and I was prepared to not like this very much.
Same here. I was worried that I was going to really dislike it. It was going to be one of those, not the bees, not the color out of peas. But it was actually quite entertaining. And I think anyone who watches it will love the Easter eggs and really admire the creature effects and the sound effects.
Okay, so it's going to hit wide release in January or so, and then so we're probably looking at digital or DVD probably late next year, I'm guessing.
Well, I'll bet early next year. I'm guessing we'll see spring next year. We'll see it streaming on stuff. It's already been picked up for distribution in the U.S., and he said that the distributors bought it, and the company, everybody who's put the money into it has gotten their money back. It's in the black right now.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well,
So I'm super hopeful that we're going to see more Richard Stanley. He was talking about, what he really wanted to do was a Dunwich horror story, and he said he said that Nicolas Cage is all in on working again on some kind of Lovecraftian stuff.
So Nicolas Cage is suddenly Jeffrey Combs.
Wouldn't that be interesting? I mean, if you want to, I don't want to give it all away, but if you want to listen to the Strange Eons podcast, he talks a lot about how he got a call in the middle of the night from Nicolas Cage, and he didn't believe it was him, and how they ended up being involved in a Lovecraft project. Because apparently, this kind of blew my mind. Nicolas Cage, huge Lovecraft fan.
wow. Well, you know what? From what I know of his personality, if you think about it, not too surprising, really.
Yeah, I guess so, but it was just kind of weird. I know he's a big comic book fan, and I know he's got,
Yeah.
interests in all these things, but the fact that he was looking, basically, he told us that Spectre Vision, which is Elijah Wood's production company, who put out Mandy and A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night and all these other big movies, they were looking for another film, and because they had had such success with Nick Cage, they said, "What do you want to do next?" And he said, "I want to do Lovecraft next." And they said, "We happen to know there's a script floating around right now," and it was Richard Stanley's Color Out of Space. And he told us that, he got a call in the middle of the night by some crazed lunatic claiming he was Nicolas Cage, saying he loved his script and he wanted to make the movie, and he agreed to it and hung up. And then
In the middle of the night, no less.
well, because he lives in France, so he went out and smoked a cigarette and thought, well, that was weird, and never thought about it. And then months later, because that's how long it takes to get money for these kind of things, the producers actually had to knock on his door and tell him, we're making your movie, because he had no idea that it was happening.
Wow.
Richard Stanley is a fascinating guy. He is a absolute weirdo, but I just loved him this weekend.
All right. You know what? I'm doing a 180 on this whole thing. You're listening to you guys talk about it, and I'm doing a 180 on Richard Stanley too. So
I did as well, because I've met him before, and it was not the best conversation I've had.
I have had those conversations where I wait to see somebody who I really wanted to meet, and they're an hour late to sitting down with me, and it's so clear when you walk through the door that you're coked up.
Hey, Pete, I apologized for that over and over.
I'll tell you guys this. I saw Richard Stanley standing outside the restaurant that we all hang out at in the morning at the Lovecraft Film Festival that morning that we were interviewing him. So I walked up to him and reintroduced myself to him and said, "Hey, I'm one of the guys that's going to be interviewing you later today. We loved the film, and I just want to let you know it's going to go really well, and we're not weirdos or anything." And he said to me, "Well, that's unfortunate because I'm a weirdo." And I thought, well,
So you lied, in other words.
But it really kind of put me at ease. I thought, well, this interview is going to go very well.
That reminds me of The Fog, when what's his name picks up
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, yeah, and it's the dead of night, dark. He picks her up. She's hitchhiking, and she goes, I just need to know, are you weird? And he's like, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And she says, oh, thank God.
I would urge anyone who gets the chance to see this at a film festival or something like that to take advantage of that, because it's really amazing on the screen. The color that he comes up with is, for the Color Out of Space, is God, it's sexy and dangerous. It's a really interesting color.
It doesn't reproduce well, I gotta say, on pictures. Compared to, it was much more overwhelming on the screen.
Yes, I agree.
This Die Farbe, if I'm saying that right, is a black and white movie, but the only color in the movie is the Color Out of Space. That's how they handled it.
Right.
They just made this. They used the soundscape, like I said, to give you this uneasy sensation, but they also, what they did with the color, to make it seem completely unnatural compared to the very lush landscape, I thought was very clever also. I mean, it was clearly well thought out.
I agree.
Okay, so we've got some other things to talk about, but before we do, anything else that you guys, Matt and Kelly, stands out that you would like to mention to the audience?
Yeah, I think this sells out every year, this film festival. They can only sell like 1,200 tickets.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't been able to go to Necronomicon and you want to go to a festival, this is a great one. It really is, and you could meet lots of artists, authors, have them sign your books for you.
And they do it every year, right? Necronomicon is
Yes.
every other year.
Yeah,
So
and the thing is though, you very much have to understand you're going to pick and choose, and so it's
Sure.
kind of frustrating. Like, oh, I really wanted to go see this panel, but this is the movie I'm waiting for.
but
That's just the way it is.
by the way, Kelly, what was the panel that you blew off?
Oh, and this is the unfortunate thing. It was talking about weird fiction authors that will be discussed 20 years from now, who are current right now, that will still be discussed. And
So you basically voted with your feet.
I really did. I was just like, fuck all you guys, and I wanted to talk about Gwendolyn Keist and Cody Goodfellow and all of these people.
Oh yeah,
that,
Gwendolyn Keist, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and Brooklyn Wara. I had made all these notes on people I wanted to bring up in this panel, and I realized nobody's going to show up at this panel because everybody's going to be trying to get into the Color Out of Space. And there was so we'll discuss this. This is all exclusive. There was a rumor that Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
there was a rumor that Nicolas Cage was going to be there on the first night. And I was sitting with a bunch of people, and next to me was Eric Morgret, who does the podcast with me, and then a couple of other reserved seats next to us. And for the first showing, Richard Stanley and his girlfriend were sitting next to us. And then not first showing, this was for the first shorts block. And then after that shorts block ended, we basically were sitting there waiting for the feature to show up. And a couple of people were brought in by an usher who, in the row in front of us, a couple of young Asian kids were sat down. And then next to us, the guy said, he started sitting down a really lovely Asian woman. And we said, actually, this is Richard Stanley and his girlfriend. And the usher looked at us and he said, we're going to have to find someplace else for him. And I'm like, really? For the first showing of his film, you're going to knock him out of his seats? But then I knew that there was a rumor that Nick Cage was going to be there. And so I started Googling, Nicolas Cage's wife, who is apparently a very young, lovely Asian blonde girl. And I'm looking at this picture on my phone and looking at her and going, holy shit. And I leaned over to Eric and I said, Nicolas Cage is going to be sitting right next to you. And he said, God, do you want to change seats? And I said, no fucking way. I don't want to sit next to that weirdo. Who knows what he's going to do? But I do want to sit next to the guy who's sitting next to Nicolas Cage. And then Nick Cage never showed up. So there was a.
He sent his girlfriend, or was it his wife instead?
I don't actually know what the relationship is. When I Googled his wife, and it turned out to be her sitting a seat away from Eric, and her kids. So it was really her. It was absolutely her, and I thought, well, he's here this weekend, so then the rumor became he will introduce the film on Sunday night.
He's in his room drinking the whiskey bottles.
I'm guessing he had something else that he was supposed to be doing, but he was in town for whatever reason. So I don't know what all of that was going on. But I did recognize his wife and kids there.
Just to clarify, this very lovely young woman,
Mm-hmm.
but not as lovely as Brandy.
No, God, no.
No, yeah,
No,
of course not.
Nobody is.
Well, Danielle is, but yes,
Okay, so you guys, the other thing is
trying to keep you out of trouble, Kelly.
Trying to keep you out of trouble, Mike.
This film festival's in the city of Portland. It's a great tourist location. The film festival hotel is one train stop away. It's easy transport, great restaurants, interesting people. So I think, but if you want to get a ticket, you really need to participate in the Kickstarter when they introduce it, and that way you have your guaranteed spot. Because if you think you're going to go up to the theater and buy a ticket on the day of, it's just not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's hard.
Yeah.
Especially this was a highly anticipated film this year. And the director was in attendance, and then there was not just rumors that Nicolas Cage was going to be there, but Guillermo del Toro was in town, and Andrew Migliori, who is friends with him, had a film in the film festival that was very good, and he had reached out to del Toro and said, del Toro had seen the film, loved it, and Andrew said, would you like to come see it on the premiere? And del Toro said, yeah, reserve me a couple seats. So there was a little bit of buzz among those of us who were in the know that Nicolas Cage was going to be there, del Toro was going to be there. It was going to be one of these things that you did not want to miss, and it was packed in that theater. And in the end, Nicolas Cage did not show up, and del Toro did not show up.
Life is full of disappointments.
And
I mean, I was there, so.
Well, yeah. But
Yeah, no time for your friends.
Before I get to Matt, I just want to say that I was at one point during the weekend looking through the program, and I was standing in the theater, and I see somebody kind of walk past and then stop and then come back, and I kind of look over my program, and a lovely woman who says, "You're Kelly Young," and I'm like, oh Christ, here's where the child support comes in. But instead she said, "I am a huge fan of the Lovecraft eZine podcast," and she was just lavishing me with praise.
Oh, is she your are you her favorite character on the show?
No, clearly not. There's no way that anyone can beat Pete Rollick. But
Joe was once told that, "Hey, you're my favorite character on that show," and he's like, "Thanks for the compliment, but we're not fictional characters." Anyway, go on.
She just heaped praise upon the podcast, and I was like, wow, you just made my day. Thank you so much. Her name was Lisette, and if you're listening,
yes,
Lisette, thank you so much for making my day.
I have not met her, but yes, she's a Patreon, and yeah, she's a great supporter. I really appreciate her.
That Andrew Migliori film we should mention was, I thought, a stunning triumph of bringing Clark Ashton Smith to the screen. It was bloody brilliant. It was The Last Incantation.
Yeah, a Clark Ashton Smith story, and it was just really nice to see another Clark Ashton Smith story on the screen. But they did.
It was brilliant.
They did a really nice
How
job
long was the film?
10 or 15 minutes?
Yeah, maybe 12 minutes.
Yeah, that's about the length.
I'm sure it'll be in the highlights DVD.
Absolutely, it will. Yeah, it was spectacular.
So Ross sent me pictures of
Ross Lockhart, I'm guessing. Okay.
Yes.
Is there another?
Being my favorite brewery being closed.
That was a shock and a bummer to find out that the Columbia Brewery was closed, because that's where a lot of us, I mean, you really only have two places to eat at this film festival, and one of them has shut down.
Yeah. Well, there are other places, but not with any number of people in. You can go in and there's a couple places where you can have a slice of pizza or a bowl of pho, but you can't sit down with a party of 12.
No.
And
that's a weird area in Portland in that they've built it up, they've gentrified it, they've done all of this stuff, but it was, that place has been there for 10 years, so that was shocking to see that it was no longer around.
Yeah, that's sad. That's weird that all these restaurants that I've come to sort of rely on to get me through cons are now gone.
Yeah.
So
I have a couple of announcements before we move on to more fun stuff. First of all, I've received through the grapevine, received a complaint that I think is about this show, that there are too many inside jokes and we're laughing at each other's jokes. So in response to this, I want to put a call out to everybody on the panel for more inside jokes and laughing
Well,
at each other's jokes.
here's a joke for him. Why couldn't the pony talk? He was a little horse. Ha ha. Okay, that wasn't it.
Jesus, that was horrible.
I don't know this man.
Another announcement. Okay, our friend Joe Pulver. Um, I know we're all worried about him. His latest book was published by Lovecraft eZine Press, meaning me, and it's called A Long Dark Grim Road. Now, what I'm going to do from whenever I publish a book, we make the author and I make an arrangement for um, the profits. Who we there's a split. I won't bore you with the details, but from here on out, every copy that's sold of A Long Dark Grim Road, uh, I'm gonna donate. I'm gonna give all of those proceeds to Joe and Cat Pulver. So this is a very different book, even for Joe, but it's really really different. It's really really interesting. It's available in paperback and Kindle. So yeah, buy the book. Everything's going to go to Joe. So Logan,
Awesome.
can you take her out real quick, please?
Hello.
Yeah, sorry about
Has-
that. My son just came in. So yeah, I love Joe to death. He's going through hell. Cat's going through hell. Being worried about him, and I just wanted. Believe me, I don't have much money, but I want to donate all of those proceeds to them. So you can just get it on Amazon. A Long Dark Grim Road by Joseph S. Pulver Sr. And all the proceeds will go to him. Um, Next announcement. My son, this is a favor. If anybody listening is a gamer, or you have kids that are gamers or whatnot, my son has a Twitch channel, and he's been through a lot, as I think a lot of the audience knows, and I've got a link to his Twitch channel. Um, that's the extent of my understanding of what a Twitch channel is. But anyway, there's a link, and if you know what that is, or your kids know what that is, please follow him. It would mean a lot. So the link is in the show notes, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening later on iTunes or wherever. Okay, so what else do we got? Um, Books, anything?
What about the tall grass? Did you want to talk about that, or did you do that last time?
We did not do that last time. Let's talk about it. Did you like it?
Well, this is another one of those things where it wasn't the story, really. It was the story, and they riffed on it. The actual story was taken care of within the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they put in a bunch of different things. I don't even want to put spoilers in, but there were timeline things and relationships between the characters. I guess trying to, I don't know if they did this in a coherent fashion, or they were just trying to fill out a feature length movie. So
I have to say that I did not care that much for the story itself, but that's probably my problem, because there's a really gruesome part in that story, and it was in the movie as well. But I actually did like the different timeline things.
well, you're big time travel kind
Yeah,
of guy.
yeah, that's true.
I thought it was certainly well made, and it was well acted. Um, I don't know. I thought it was okay. Certainly worth a watch, but it didn't greatly move me.
No, me either. I'm not going to watch it again ever. Anyone else here seen it? Rick, have you seen it? Kelly?
No.
All right.
Yeah, I saw
I saw
it.
it.
I was It'd be interesting to see, especially now with the way things work with streaming and various other things, if a movie that was being made didn't have to conform to some kind of time standard, and a movie only had to be as long as it was to tell the story. Because I felt like
Yeah.
this dragged a lot and would have been served really well as a 45-minute movie.
It did drag. Yeah.
It's just like we talked about the last incantation before. When you told me 12 minutes, I thought that was the perfect length.
Absolutely perfect, yeah.
Yeah. You're right, Kelly, because you're not if you're going to make, and we've had this conversation in the other direction, where we said instead of trying to force your content down to 2 hours, take it to 2:30 or take it to 3. Particularly if you're going to put it on Netflix or some other streaming service, I'm going to pause it anyway. I guarantee you I got to get up and walk the dog. So, it doesn't matter. But the reverse works as well. Stop trying to pad out things to 2 hours.
Right.
I stopped listening to you after you said you're right, Kelly. Mike, if you get that drop and just play that ever.
I couldn't believe it was even said, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't care for the movie. I didn't care for the story, but those guys are both great writers. Obviously, that's just I didn't care for that particular story.
Yeah.
But to me, it reminded me a lot of things that King had already done before. Whether it be The Lawnmower Man or Children of the Corn or The Lonely Death of Geordie Verrill. It's those pieces just slammed into a blender and redone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I only have to listen to Pete sigh as he tries to explain why it's an okay film to make me realize that it's not an okay film.
Yeah, it's
He's like, and I'm like, all right.
Look, I enjoyed it. All right, I
All right.
enjoyed it, but that doesn't mean it's a good movie.
That's true. You enjoy a lot of crappy movies.
There is. Look, last night I stayed up late and I watched all 4 Scream movies.
Scream.
And
I like the Scream movies.
You know what? You could live without 2 and 3. 2 and 3 do nothing. 1 and 4 are the good ones.
Jeez, I'm kind of with you on this.
I'm not with you. I think 1 and 2 are the best ones.
You have a different opinion sometimes when you binge all these series together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
So
anyway,
you see a lot of tropes repeated.
Right. My point is that there are some films that I really, really enjoyed the first time I watch them, and then later on I'm like, I could have watched something better, and they don't work out.
I'll use an analogy here. I was, when the Indiana Jones movie came out, I was rewatching all the old Republic serials.
Mm-hmm.
And my judge of a good Republic serial is if I can watch 4 episodes in a row and find it original. If I found it repetitive, then it's, binge watching is just a horrifying experience.
Yeah.
All right, a couple of other Stephen King related things. First of all, me and Kelly and Ben were all reading the Institute by Stephen King at roughly the same time, and I think we had 3 different opinions. I wish Ben was here. Ben said that I think he used the words "it's a slog." Kelly, you said you absolutely loved it. When you finished the book, did you have the same opinion?
I mean, I loved it because I love Stephen King's writing. I wanted it to go a different direction for sure in the story, but I was not disappointed with the story, and I didn't think it was a slog. I burned through it.
Yeah.
I burned through it too. I thought that, however, the last quarter of it was not as strong as the first part of the book.
Yeah,
I
I'll
thought
give you that.
The ending was weaker, and it kind of, instead of having a real ending, it sort of fizzled out. But I thoroughly enjoyed reading it. I was happy I read it.
I feel differently. I really, really loved the first part. This is all non-spoiler, folks. I really, really loved the first part. The middle, I thought could have been cut somewhat. Um, I thought the middle part was a bit of a chore to get through, and I thought the end was quite action packed, and I liked it a lot. So
I only have to listen to Kelly say when he starts a sentence, I mean, I liked it.
Shit.
Know that I don't need to read this book.
I thought it was really good. I had a different expectation of where it was going, and I thought it was going to tie into other Stephen King works.
Okay. Um, I don't know if I mentioned this last week or not. So if I did, stop me. But he's got a book coming out called If It Bleeds, or
Right.
something like that. And it's four novellas, and one of the novellas is a sequel to The Outsider, which to me that's exciting. I liked The Outsider. I did have one small problem with it, but it was minor. I won't mention it. And I really liked that female character. I forget her name.
Holly Gibney.
Yes, Holly Gibney.
Actually, they call The Outsider like the first book in the Holly Gibney series.
Really?
Yeah, and I actually
Interesting.
I don't know if I like that. 'Cause,
I thought she was quite a different, very interesting character, and
I think
She
Stephen
was-
King really likes her too.
She was in the Mr. Mercedes series, wasn't she?
Yes, that's where she originated.
Well, then
Oh,
it can't be the
I-
first book in her series.
Well, no,
I've-
because
Come on.
she was
I have not read
an
Mr.
important side
Mercedes.
character. I think she's going to be like the starring character in a couple of supernatural books coming up.
well,
Interesting.
this was in the EW. It was just a couple of paragraphs, but basically, at the beginning of If It Bleeds, she sends uh, a flash drive to Ralph Anderson, who was the cop in The Outsider, and that's all I'll say. But it seems very interesting. So I can't wait for it to come out. I don't remember exactly when it is coming out. Sometime next year. I don't think this year. So unfortunately, and then the last somewhat related Stephen King thing that I'll mention is he tweeted or said somewhere that he really enjoyed uh, a series called Marianne on Netflix. He said he thought it was as scary as hell. Have you guys, any of you, watched this?
It's on my
I
list to watch. Go ahead, Kelly. Tell us how you didn't like it.
Okay, so
All right, so you
It
didn't
is-
like it. Moving on.
It's a frustrating series, and let me just play it out exactly how it went for me. So the first episode, it's French, first of all. Do not
Yes.
watch the dubbed version. The dubbing is awful. So I watched it.
I noticed
subtitles.
that. Yeah.
And at the end of the first episode, I thought, okay, this has got some creepy elements. I'll watch it. So the beginning of the second episode, something happens that scared the fuck out of me like maybe nothing has in years.
Really?
And I was like, oh my God. I mean, literally, I had a blanket up to my eyes and the hair on my arms.
Was it dark out, or was it like noon when you
It
were
was
watching?
dark out.
Okay.
It was. But
You
still,
had the
it was-
atmosphere going. Yeah.
it was still a very, very frightening visual, and then the rest of the episode did not live up to that. But then in the third episode, about halfway through, something happened that scared me that much as well. And every single episode has a scene that is maybe the scariest thing you have ever seen in your life. And then the rest of the episode does not live up to it. I watched the entire series. I thought it was I kept going through the entire thing. I thought every episode there was something that was so scary it made me want to shit my pants. It was that scary,
Excluding the first episode.
excluding the first episode, but also excluding everything else in the episode where this moment happened. So
Yeah.
I would just sit there and watch going, when is this moment going to happen? And it happened in every episode. The visuals were amazing, and there was something scary that kept me coming back every single episode. I didn't love the show, but I thought every single episode there was something
Taking her out?
worth
Okay.
watching if you're a horror fan. I was terrified at least once every single episode, and I call that a success.
Okay, you just talked me into it because I apparently I did it wrong. I started watching Marianne based on Stephen King's comment. I watched it dubbed, and I watched for about 20 minutes, and I thought, man, that writer is a bitch.
Oh God, yeah, you hate her.
Yeah.
And I hated her. I hated her up
She's
until about
mean to
episode 5.
Everyone, and this isn't. If she was a man, we'd like it. No, if she was a man, I'd say what a complete asshole this guy is.
Absolutely, she's awful.
Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I think I'll do this tonight. Is I will watch it. You watch it in French with subtitles. That's what you're saying, right, Kelly?
I'm saying, Mike, watch that second episode. Watch 10 minutes of the second episode, and if you are not sitting there going, holy shit, I need to see what's going on. If Danielle is not going, no way, I cannot watch any more of this, then you can put it aside.
She did that with Jeepers Creepers. She would not. She
I
was
know.
done. I mean,
That second episode, 10 minutes into the second episode, I was so fucking terrified.
but I have to watch the first episode first, right?
Yeah, but didn't you watch the first episode?
I watched 15 minutes of it and I gave
Oh.
up.
Yeah, it gets better, but she doesn't get better as a character until maybe 5 episodes in, when you start realizing why she's such an asshole.
So, but you're saying do watch it
Yeah.
in French with English subtitles. Don't
How
watch
many-
it dubbed.
How many?
Am I
episodes
correct
are-
on that? Sorry, Rick. Is that what you're saying, Kelly?
That is what I'm saying. It's 10 episodes, Rick, and it's that's why I'm saying is what's so frustrating is that as you're watching it, you're hating this lead character and things like that. But in every episode, I was thinking, well, I think I don't have time for this.
I hope she
But I
gets
was-
killed. Yeah, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, and every episode, something happened that was like the scariest thing I had ever seen on film. And I
Okay.
was just like, okay, I'm watching the next episode.
Oh my God, Danielle's back at school watching the show, and she just wrote, "Why do you do this to me, Kelly?"
Hey, Kelly, years ago,
We're watching it tonight, honey. I love you.
Pete, years ago.
King recommended a series similarly called Kingdom Hospital.
She said you both suck.
Well, he was talking about the Scandinavian one.
Yes.
Right.
Which
The
I
Kingdom.
felt, everything you're saying about this, that's how I felt about Kingdom Hospital.
Yes, and then King ruined it by bringing it to America and doing his own version of it, which was nowhere near as good. But that's
Right.
kind of how I felt about that also, which was, there's all sorts of stuff being brought into this that is cultural. So I'm sure
Right.
that there's these things that as Americans, we're not quite getting why it would be interesting to watch this person do this thing, because we just haven't been raised with whatever is going on in their culture.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
But their visuals in that series are fucking terrifying. Oh my God. So, yeah.
All right. You talked me into it.
I wholeheartedly look, if you can only just make it through the first episode and 10 minutes of the second episode, if you're not hooked then I don't know what you're
Then stop. Okay. All right. Well, it is getting dark here as we speak, so the atmosphere will be just perfect. Danielle, I love you very much. I hope you know that.
Me too, Danielle.
All right. I want to mention a few books.
No.
What?
No.
Why not?
Well,
Why
because.
can't I do this?
It's not your show.
Oh, right. Well, let's pretend it is for just a second. Um, The Weeping Season by Sean O'Connor.
Wait,
Huh?
I blurbed that.
Did you?
Yeah,
So you like the book?
yeah.
Okay. I have not read it yet, but it looks good, and I told him that I would mention it on the show today.
It's very Black Mirror.
Right.
But written. I think I read it more than a year ago. So
Well, yeah, if you blurbed it, you read it
yeah.
more than a year ago.
So anyway, but yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's not my usual cup of tea. It's more like a cup of coffee. But yeah, good book.
Okay. Another one I have not read yet that looks very interesting to me personally, and I'm going to mispronounce this, I'm sure. Talk to Me. It's Taaqtumi. An anthology of Arctic horror stories.
Yeah, I blurbed that too.
What are you fucking kidding me? You blurb every fucking book on the planet?
No, I just kidding.
You did okay. This I don't know. I just yeah. This says this word that I can't pronounce is an incuitate. Is that how you say that word? That's I don't know.
I think that's Go ahead.
Word that means quote in the dark.
Spell it again.
Taaqtumi is an Inuit. Yes, Inuit word that means in the dark. I'm reading from Amazon now. And these spine-tingling horror stories by northern writers show just how dangerous darkness can be. Family clinging to survival out on the tundra after a vicious zombie virus. A door that beckons waiting to unleash the terror behind it. A post-apocalyptic community in the far north where things aren't quite what they seem. With chilling tales from award-winning authors Richard Van Camp, Rachel and Sean. I've never heard of these people, but this book sounds great. So, there's that I wanted to mention. Is it next week? I think it's next week. Yes, next week. We are gonna. John Horner Jacobs is gonna be on the show, and we're gonna talk to him about his new book, A Lush and Seething Hell, which is probably worth two tales of cosmic horror. Yes,
I have to say I read before this was even planned. I had just read on my Kindle The Sea Dreams That It Is the Sky.
Right, that's one of them.
It is bloody brilliant. I wouldn't. It's like if you read it, you could completely disregard the cosmic horror element because it's just a little bit of flavoring. It's not the main story. The main story is the inhumanity of the people who were disappeared in Argentina and Chile at the times of the military juntas, and what that does to people and community. It is a super absorbing read.
I read it too, and I agree with everything Matt said.
The second, it's basically two novellas or short novels, whatever you want to say. Is called My Heart Struck Sorrow. So I'm in the middle of this. So far, I agree with you guys. This is just fantastic. I really love it. It's available in Kindle and hardcover, and it's got a foreword by Chuck Wendig. A Lush and Seething Hell, Two Tales of Cosmic Horror by John Horner Jacobs. So he will be on the show next week, and we'll talk to him about that. I noticed a book in my searches for new books to read, and the publisher.
Why are you looking for books to read? Don't you have enough?
You can never have enough, Pete. Never.
Okay.
Never. You can never have enough.
All right.
This is called The Monster of Elendhaven, and it's by Jennifer Glesbrecht. And I'm sorry, Jennifer, if you ever listen or watch to this show, if I mispronounced your last name. Joe Hill says about this book, a black tide of perversity, violence, and lush writing. I loved it. The city of Elendhaven sulks, I love that, on the edge of the ocean. Racked by plague, abandoned by the South. What the hell are you doing? Oh, I thought that was you, Pete. Sorry, Rick. Stripped of industry and left to die, but not everything dies so easily. A thing without a name stalks the city. A thing shaped like a man with a dark heart and long pale fingers yearning to wrap around throats. A monster who cannot die. I read this on Amazon. I'm like, this sounds utterly fascinating, and the publishers are sending me the book, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's available in hardcover. It's available on Audible, and it's available on Kindle. So there's another book report for you guys. What else? We talked about If It Bleeds. I can cross that off.
I've got a book to recommend.
Yes, please, go ahead.
For the collector. You may remember James Wade. They have a complete collection of all his horror writings, whether it's Cthulhu Mythos.
Yeah, he wrote the deep ones from 1969. That would probably be his most well-known story.
Yeah.
The collection came out. You can't order it. I couldn't find it on Amazon. I found it on A-Books. James Wade, Such Things May Be, Collected Writings. It has a foreword by Fritz Leiber. They had planned this like way back in the 70s, and it just
Wow.
it didn't get off the ground. So,
Okay.
particularly if you're a collector of the what might have been called the New Lovecraft Circle
Mm-hmm.
of the 70s, you want to get this.
It is now on Amazon, Rick. I
Oh,
posted a link.
good.
Okay, Danielle's now saying in the live chat, she's working at school. She's very dedicated. She says, "I am staying here tonight. I will see you in the morning." So, guess that means she doesn't want to watch. She's really starting to hate you, Kelly.
It happens to every woman who gets to know me.
Yeah, that's true. Brandy told me the same thing.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got. Hey, Kelly, you want to talk about Creepshow?
Oh boy, yeah, I do want to talk about Creepshow. Is
I
anybody else
figured you
watching
did.
it?
I watched the first episode and I thought it sucked.
I wouldn't go that far. I thought it was fine, but it certainly didn't feel like Creepshow, did it?
No.
It felt more like Nightmares and Dreamscapes. Creepshow has a certain feel to it where it's got a really wicked sense of humor, and it's kind of got a morality play going on in it, and it feels very much like the old Tales of the Crypts comics, which is what it was kind of adapting back then. And then of course the Tales of the Crypt series did that, and they did it wonderfully. The new series, the latest episode, which I think is episode 4, is finally starting to feel like Creepshow to me.
Oh, they're up to episode 4 already. I didn't realize.
Yeah, the first...
Is it one a week or...
It's one a week, yeah.
Okay.
And
Been a
and
month
I
already.
think it's 2 episodes per... or 2 segments per episode. So maybe they're only up to 3. The second episode had a werewolf, a World War II werewolf story that was written and directed by Rob Schraub. If you're a fan of Scud, the Disposable Assassin, you know him. And I thought that was getting much closer.
Wait,
yeah,
what?
Yeah, you would know
God,
because
the
you're not hip.
Disposable Assassin, which is like really obscure comic book series.
I knew that if I mentioned that, Pete would be the only person who knew what I was talking about.
Boy,
Yeah, I
and
never
or
heard of it.
Rick. Yeah,
I never heard of it.
you've never heard of it, Rick?
No.
Wow.
It's from the 90s.
Yeah.
So, but it was a very biting satire kind of comic book that was, it had ups and downs. I liked it quite a bit back then, maybe early 2000s.
Kind of like
I don't
a
know.
cheap version of Boris the Bear.
You know what? Yes. Wow. Yes. I don't think I put that together back then. But this had more of a creep show feel. I felt like he kind of understood what they were going for. But the last episode had a segment that was based on a Bruce Jones story from the really early 80s Twisted Tales comic book. Do you guys remember that?
I have a complete run.
Okay, yeah. So that felt really much to me. It felt very much like Creepshow, and I also thought, well, this is kind of a cheat because Twisted Tales was totally a ripoff of the old Tales from the Crypt, and so it was one of those things that was like, well, this is kind of a home run because this is exactly what the show is supposed to feel like, and so that was happening, and then an original one called The Man in the Suitcase, which I thought was really, really good. So I would say this last episode.
Why does that title sound familiar?
I thought it did too, but then I couldn't find anything else about it, and I think it was written original for the series, for the Creepshow series.
Is it Man in a Suitcase?
Yes.
That used to be a TV show in the 70s or 60s, British TV show.
If that's
Espionage show.
so, then that is not at all what this story is based on.
Yeah.
For some reason, I was thinking it was a Stephen King short story or something, but probably not.
It didn't ring a bell for me if that's the case, and I thought it was the most Creepshow episode of any of the Creepshow episodes.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, maybe this is just going to get better and better. I'm also wondering if you've got these episodes finished, why you wouldn't put some of your stronger stuff right up front to hook viewers.
Yeah.
Because, Mike, you're right. That first episode was not great.
What streaming?
Yeah.
What streaming services is on?
This is on Shudder.
Yeah. Okay. Just real quick, did you see the first episode of Supernatural last season?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
I thought it was silly, but
Meh. Yeah.
I think the entire show is silly, and I still watch, so I'm fine with it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
just want to. Can I take 2 seconds, Mike? I was looking
Sure.
at that book. Rick mentioned about James
As
Wade
long as
that-
you stop doing the shaky found footage cam.
What are you talking about?
I feel like
Okay.
I'm like on a bad Disney ride.
Yeah.
It was interesting. James Wade died in the 80s, and they have the introduction by Fritz Lieber, who died a while ago. It was really poignant to see that it was edited by E.P. Berglund, the Mythos guy. He just died this past spring.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of people recently.
No kidding.
Stan
Then-
Sargent, Willem, E.P.
Yeah, so
Burr.
it just made it more poignant for me. So I'm going to go definitely order it.
Okay.
Can I just say, and I'm sure that Matt saw this also, the bench that Willem was always on at the Lovecraft Film Festival
yes.
had a nice
saw
little
that
wreath on
picture.
it.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just wonderful. And they actually did a wonderful eulogy for Willem during one of the days. Not there, but at the EOD Center, and they had a bunch of people come up and talk and discuss and just sometimes read some of his work and sometimes just tell a little story about him and why he was important to them. It was really, really lovely.
Mike, and I'm sure other people did too, but Mike Griffin took a picture of that. I shared it in the Lovecraft eZine group, and there was something written in chalk in front of the bench too. Willem, I think. I can't remember quite what it was.
It was just a rest in peace, Willem.
Yes,
And
that's
it
right.
It was just a really nice acknowledgement of what he meant to the festival and everyone who attended. So.
Yeah. Okay, just to switch gears for a second, Birds of Prey. Did you see that trailer?
I missed that.
I have
saw
seen
it.
the trailer.
Oh my God!
I
Does
got
Harley?
no interest.
I know you don't. Does Harley steal the show on that, man? I can't wait to see this.
In fact, I don't know. I can't figure out who the other women are. Somebody
I don't know either.
So one of them is Montoya.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
Yeah, one is Montoya. and
Renee
one
Montoya, yeah.
One is what's the character who was once the daughter of Bruce Wayne and Catwoman, the Huntress.
The Huntress.
The Huntress. Yeah, the Huntress is it.
Yeah. But man, Harley Quinn just steals the show. I can't wait to see this.
And we got to see when Ian McGregor puts on a black mask
Right.
as their character.
Yeah, there was
You see, it was his normal face in the trailer.
Yeah. There was something on Twitter like all eyes are on Ian McGregor in the new Birds of Prey trailer, and I'm thinking, no, they're not. They're on Harley Quinn. She stole the show in the trailer. So,
Have you seen what the cast is for Suicide Squad 2?
no.
They've got a lot. Peter Capaldi's in it in some
Yeah.
way.
It's huge.
It's huge. It's Nathan Fillion. It's like the speculation is in the first half of the movie they're going to kill. It's going to be like Deadpool 2. They're going to be killing people off like mad.
Oh, man.
Okay.
That's how the comic book was written.
We finally got more than a teaser. We got a Picard trailer. What did you guys think of that? I can't wait to see that too.
I'm overwhelmed.
I haven't seen it. We're going to have Philip back on the show to talk about what it was like to work on the set of that.
Yeah, it's true.
Let's just say they have more than Data coming back, and let's leave it at that.
I thought that was a dream, but we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably a dream, but I'm
Just be
talking
grateful.
about the people at the end of the trailer.
Just be grateful that Brent Spiner hasn't put on weight.
Yeah, because androids don't put on weight, but apparently number one does.
Oh hell yeah!
A lot of it.
No. Oh, no. I haven't seen the trailer.
He's going the Shatner route.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Which was also interesting that his since we've had all these cats on today, is Picard's cat is named number one.
That's right.
Well, I'd rather be number one than number two, if you know what I mean.
Oh, I love that. And the other thing is, I've got CBS All Access because my wife, there's a lot of programs she loves on CBS. So this is on CBS All Access. I don't even have to pay anything extra to watch this. So this is great. I know we're going long, but I want to talk about a few more things if it's okay with you guys. Let's see here. Yeah, well, maybe. Anyone see that 2-sentence horror show on Netflix?
I watched all of those.
And what did you think?
I really enjoyed some of those.
Okay. I haven't seen any of them yet.
The production values aren't great. They're cheap. Each episode's about 15 minutes. But I thought, hey, I really enjoyed these. These were very entertaining. I would put those on to watch, and I got sucked in.
Okay. Good. Fair enough. I've read a lot of those over the past couple of years. I think it's a really great idea, 2-sentence horror stories.
So the basic thing is they give you the first sentence, and then they tell a story, and then in the closing scene they give you the last sentence. So, what are you laughing at, Kelly? No, come on.
He probably told himself a joke.
No, yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, you told yourself a joke.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Couple things, and then we'll go. Patreons, if you're a Patreon or if you're thinking about becoming a Patreon, the $5 tier gets you all the Patreon podcasts, of course, and I just added, based on feedback, a new perk to the $10 tier. And what we're going to do is, twice a month on Thursdays, we're going to do basically a Google Hangout with any of the $10 month people who want to, and any of us who are free that night and feel like doing it. So, they can ask questions about writing or just chat or whatever they want to do.
You mean Zoom, right?
It's not going to be recorded, so I don't know. It may just be Google Hangout, because Google Hangout is still working for non-recorded stuff, is my understanding.
But isn't there a limit on the number of people? 6?
I don't know, but we'll work it out either way.
All right.
But yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, we may end up using Zoom.
Okay.
But anyway, and if nothing else, we're just gonna sit around and chat, and they barely seem to like that idea. So there's that. The only request we got was that Kelly Young not be on any of those. So
I'm going to be on every single one of those, you guys. So shut your mouth. Give me your $10.
Wait, you're getting $10?
No.
I'm getting $10 so that I can keep doing this.
I'm going to make sure Mike regrets this whole idea.
I'm regretting it already. All right, Matt, you've got a prize, and then we'll go. I think we've wasted enough of the viewers' time for one day.
Centipede Press, Weird Fiction Review number 8. Send an email mentioning weird in the subject line to ezineprizes@gmail.com, and you may win.
And what do any of these stories have to do with the topless chick?
Who cares?
Is that art by the artist who is highlighted in that issue?
No, it is not. Errol Otis is most famous for doing the Cthulhu section for deities and demigods.
Grant
Wow.
Griffin, I don't know anything about the artist, to be honest.
The knowledge set of this group here is always blowing my mind. And Pete just dropped something that he just happened to know about an artist, and it's just like, God, where are you going to find this?
Yeah.
There was
but
an
here.
article about him several
Nowhere.
years ago
Nowhere.
that talked about how
Look at this. It's gorgeous. It's got a gorgeous little gallery from him.
I mean, Rick does this several times an episode, but every once in a while, Pete, makes you he makes you realize why he's on the show too.
But my knowledge kind of ends around 1970s. I know things about weird tales in the 30s and pulp authors and
which
whatever.
is exactly where Pete's knowledge picks up. It's like amazing.
See, and this is how smart I am, because I know to surround myself with people who are more knowledgeable than myself, and it makes me look good.
You're like Professor X.
That's right. Please, a favor, besides the other favors I've asked about my son's Twitch, and please remember, A Long Dark Grim Road, from now on, all proceeds, I will receive nothing. I'm going to give it all to Joe and Kat. And it's quite a different story. It's a very dark story. And it's a Joe Pulver story, so you'll enjoy it. Available in print and Kindle. Please also, this is really important. If you could rate us on iTunes and click the follow button on Spotify, that would help the show out a lot. I know this show isn't perfect, so I don't expect every rating to be 5-star, but any rating helps, I believe, right? right, Kelly? It helps.
But Danielle giving you a 2, that must have hurt.
Yeah, yeah, but it's honest. It's
that was
honest
a personal
feedback.
too. Had nothing to do with the podcast.
Yeah, yeah. So
Honestly, I think of all the characters, we could cut you and we'd be fine.
cut me. Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, yeah, you could cut me.
I do believe that any rating counts. Just the more ratings means the more people who are actually listening. So I think that if you're just giving an honest review, whether you like it or hate it, that's all positive for us.
Yeah. And if you're watching every week and you hate it, I question your masochistic,
Right.
tendencies.
That happened to me once.
What?
So this guy reviewed Reanimatrix, and he was like, I've read all of Pete Rollick's novels, and I've hated them all.
You should have responded, "You're really gonna hate the next one."
Why bother? Really?
One of my friends is the showrunner for the
Oh my God.
Hulu series Light as a Feather, and he was telling me, God, it's so hard because I get all these messages that say, I hate this show. But then the next sentence is, but I can't stop watching. And he's like, well, I'll take it.
Why? Because they secretly like it, or because it's like watching a train wreck?
He doesn't care. He's like, as long as you're watching, this means a paycheck.
The Gong Show.
That's
What
true.
was it? What was the one, the daytime show where they would like Jerry Springer? These were horrible shows.
Yeah.
Maury Povich. But you couldn't stop watching.
Jerry Springer was the mayor of Cincinnati when I was young.
Yeah.
You know how he lost the job? He went to a massage parlor across the river in Kentucky and paid by personal check. So he always was pretty bright.
With all of this that we're talking about, and the bad mouthing of Creepshow we did, I will tell you this: the fact that that there is a TV series called Creepshow that is on in the month of October that I can watch every week, that makes me feel happy, whether the show is good or not. So,
Yeah, you got a
And on
point.
that note, I will respond by saying I am sorely disappointed in Netflix's options for the month of October.
yeah.
Really? Why? What do you mean?
There's the amount of horror that's on Netflix is tremendously small.
Yeah.
Doesn't even include Monolith Monsters. I'm really
I find myself watching Netflix less and less, and I'm watching things like Shudder and Hulu and things like that.
Next week we need to start talking about Titans, which I'm
Yeah, we
loving.
do.
So,
Yeah, we do. I'm up to the 3rd episode. I'm not. I got to catch up. So
right.
apparently, I guess. Well, no, I'm not even going to say that. That's a spoiler, I suppose. All right. So please rate us on iTunes, and click the follow button on Spotify. It would help us a lot. Really appreciate everybody listening. I really appreciate all the patrons that keep us going. Matt, prize eZine prizes at gmail.com. Is that
Right.
Is that correct?
Absolutely. You got about a week to get it in.
And put the word weird in the subject. So,
Right.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening, watching, whatever. And next week, John Horner Jacobs, and we will see you then. And thanks, guys, for being on the panel tonight. Appreciate it. Have a good night.